guys, what is up? Swim here with the first of a little 4-part series that I wanted to do for Dota Underlords. This is basically going to take you through 4 of the strongest team compositions in the entire game. These are ones you can commonly build and not reliant on any like super specific RNG to be able to find, but are nonetheless extremely powerful and should do very well for you in games. Let's get into it. So I wanted to kick the series off with Assassins Druids, one of my favorite compositions to play. Typically your late game like 8-piece game state you're looking for is going to be Morphling, Phantom Assassin, Queen of Pain, Sand King, Slark, Templar Assassin for your 6 assassins, combined with Treant Protector and Lone Druid as your 2 druids. Now, how you're going to get there will vary a little bit more differently. For example, with assassins, you're often going to be in the early game picking up Bounty Hunter, Bloodseeker, or sometimes even a Viper. If you are on track for a Bounty Hunter 3-star or a Bloodseeker 3-star, this can replace your Slark spot, especially if you don't need the Naga bonus as a potential 9th unit add-on. For the Druids, you can kind of replace Lone Druid with Enchantress 2-star for a little bit in the early game, or Treant for Nature's Prophet for a bit as well, but this is going to be your frontliner, and it's very important that one of them is a beast, either Enchantress or Lone Druid, and one of them is an elf, either Nature's Prophet or Treant Protector. The whole point of this composition is that your Sand King plus your Beast Druid will pair off in beasts, and your Phantom Assassin, Templar Assassin, and your Elf Druid or Treant Protector will create the 3 of elves, which give you evasion. A good time to go assassins is usually in the early game if you're able to upgrade one of your assassins to a 2-star. Typically this will be Bloodseeker or Bounty Hunter, and often if you're able to pair it with something like a Queen of Pain, which is one of the most important units in the build. Really, the reason assassins need 6 assassins is because they really come online with 6. If you break down the math on this crit strike thing, basically you'll find that you do 20% extra DPS on the first tier at 3, but 60% extra DPS on the second tier at 6. And this is where it really goes off. I really wouldn't recommend 9 assassins because you do need to pair off with some of the traits like elves and beasts, and you do want frontline druids being perfect at that. But basically, when it comes to level 6, if you've got multiple 2-star assassins, you really want to be making sure you hit the 6 assassin mark. It's a huge power spike for you. But ultimately, the build will be coming online at level 8, when you're able to fit in 6 assassins and the true druids, pair everything together, and ultimately, if you're missing 1 or 2 assassins, start replacing the ones you haven't found yet, often something like Templar Assassin, the rarest one. So typically you want to be hitting level 8 on around 21. It's actually almost always 21 that you end up hitting it. It's just kind of the perfect timing for it. There are some situations where you can push your economy a little bit harder, but typically you play for interest until 21 and then power spike up to 8 on 21. After that, often rolling down for 3-star units. If you can get at least one of your assassins to 3 stars, you're going to be in a pretty good spot for the rest of the game. Now I should mention that assassins, while they do power spike early and in the kind of the middle game, I would say, they do tend to fall off late. So while this build is really consistently powerful, it's not necessarily going to be getting like a lot of first placed. You'll be finishing 2nd and 3rd quite a bit, but that's completely fine because in Underlords that's still considered something like a win, and you will of course rank up with that. If and when you get a 9th hero slot, this hero can be most things that do well in the late game. Typically, you're going to want to prioritize a hero that has the ability to slow down the fight towards your advantage. You want something with a big AoE stun or something along those lines. Tidehunter and Medusa are typically the 2 perfect heroes in that slot because not only do they slow down the fight with their stuns, but they pair off in the Naga with Slark, giving you good magic resistance. So the first thing to check for is, do you need magic resistance against what you're going to have, you know, by the time you're making this decision, there's going to be only a couple opponents remaining, or 1. Do you need magic resistance against them? If yes, very simply, Tidehunter or possibly a level 2 Medusa is going to be your go-to, straight up. Otherwise, you can sometimes curve out for something like a level 2 Kunkka is a totally fine choice. Again, any level 2 with a good AoE stun. When it comes to items, they're fairly straightforward. There's not going to be a lot of items that are going to do super well for you, but with assassins, it's very important to put items on the right units. So in terms of passives, the assassin passive Pocket Sand is obviously going to do very well for you as the global item. You can just go ahead and scoop that up if you see it. Obviously, it's quite that simple, and you don't need to really do anything fancy there. However, the other globals typically won't be doing much. Tooth and Claw for savage and elusive targets are doing, you know, definitely a below average amount here. You can't keep up completing the cycle, but even this won't do an amazing amount, and I would only take this if there's nothing really better to go for in this case. However, what will be really good for assassins is something like a Mask of Madness to put on Phantom Assassin, because she has a passive, so she's a great Mask of Madness carrier. Brooch of the Aggressor to put on Templar Assassin. This is really important. I can't stress this enough. Templar Assassin has an incredibly powerful ability in the form of Refraction, but the problem with Refraction is that she doesn't have the ability to gain mana when she's being hit, because she doesn't take any damage, and paired with a low second cooldown, you really can capitalize off the pretty insane extra mana you get with a Brooch of the Aggressor on her. So this is a amazing item on her as well. If you have something simple like a damage item, just like a high value thing, like for example Skull Basher, you want to put it on a high attack speed unit, typically whoever has the highest attack speed at whatever point in time, but you want to prioritize value damage items, like for example if you just pick up something like a Sacred Relic on Templar Assassin if she doesn't already have the mana item that she needs. This is really important. I think a lot of people will put damage items on Phantom Assassin for her extra crit, but Templar Assassin is going to be better because she survives longer due to her fraction. She and Morphling are always the two that are alive at the end of fights. If you get something like a Radiance, you want to put it on something tanky like a 3-star or something like a Morphling. And that is basically it in the way of items. Just try to remember to put your tank items on either your squishiest guys or your 2 druids that are going to be up in front. So when it's all said and done, your comp should look something like this. As you can see, we have our assassins in back and our druids one step ahead of that. Our Queen of Pain has our Blightstone. As mentioned, our Templar Assassin has Brooch of the Aggressor. This is going to help us do very well. And as you might have just been able to notice there, the fact that our druids were squeezed in back alongside our assassins did help our opponents, well, it hurt our opponent's positioning because their units moved forward a step at the start of the fight before they were aggroed on by the assassins. So it kind of disrupts the enemy position, and as you can see, we can do pretty well in this fight. You can see my bench, I'm collecting Bloodseekers because I'm close to a 3-star Bloodseeker, and when that happens, I might replace the Slark. Slark is never permanent on your board because if you don't need the Naga, you're just going to end up replacing him. So you keep him until the late game. When it's down to like 2 or 3 remaining players, including yourself, you'll know at that point whether you need the Naga or not. And that's it. So, as mentioned, assassins are very powerful. One of the stronger compositions in the game. Not necessarily the single best one, but there's about 4 or 5 that all seem about the same. Next up, we'll be doing, goblins, mages, or beasts, warriors. Probably hunters as the final one for this 4-video series. Anyway, that's it for me with assassins. I'll see you guys next time.